Regulate.
Regulate, regulate. Heard they talking spicy, time to regulate. Heard they talking about me, I'ma regulate. They don't really wanna see me regulate.
Oh, I didn't know
does,
that.
Yeah, he does hats and I think slings and I think he has a chest harness now or something like that.
Dude, Garantham has someone like I think he has like the best intros. They're just
Oh
random.
yeah, I mean, man, when he came out onto the scene, man, that you can't go wrong with something like that.
No, you
That-
can't. Like he just, Catherine, if you don't know Garantham, I suggest you look at him. But he'll say stuff like, he'll be like, "Have you ever been slapped by a baby? Smash the like button." Like he just says random shit. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I love
I'll
him, man.
check it
This guy's
out.
definitely. So, all right, guys, what is up? Welcome to the American Made Podcast. Right here, we got our guest, Doug. Doug, you're the man. I gotta say thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank
Doug,
you.
this is Catherine. She's our co-host on the show. She's all the way down from Miami, Florida, where all the Cubans are at. And we're up here just in countryside, Pennsylvania, whatever you want to call it over here. So, guys, I am excited to have him on here because last episode we had Doug on here, and I mean not Doug, sorry, Bill. Last episode we had Bill on here, and Bill's great on here. He's actually the one who introduced me to Doug at the range, and right off the bat. You know what I love? I love when you get to meet someone, and when you meet someone and they give you like good energy right off the back, just good vibes, right? Like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna like this motherfucker right here. Like, it's just straight off the back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, no questions asked. Like, I know this guy's gonna be cool. That's exactly what I got off Doug right there that first day around. So
I
thanks,
appreciate
sir.
it.
Appreciate you on here, man.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. I mean, thank you for coming down to the range. I mean, Bill, we met Bill, I guess that would have been last November
Yeah.
October in our Red Dawn event at Lapowin's a Fish and Game. And man, ever since then, he's really kind of helped us out, made some good connections with us. And yeah, I mean, Bill's a good guy.
Yeah.
You're a good guy. I'm glad that you
Appreciate
came
you.
down, came to a class. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to seeing you at Potluck, and we'll have a good time.
Damn, because I wish you could come up here for the potluck, man. That potluck sounds like it's gonna be fun. So I've never been to one of those potlucks that he does. I know he's done a few already, or maybe like once before.
Three of them.
Oh, three of them. What
Yep.
exactly is the potluck? I mean, I know he probably is best to describe it, but I'm just curious myself.
I don't want to speak for Bill, but what I'll classify them as like pretty much it's like a good place to start if you've never been to a class before. Bill's really good at explaining things in a easy to understand way, and it's a pretty chill environment. Everybody likes to have a good time and joke and laugh, and I mean it's a good thing to come to. I mean, for sure. When I met Bill, it was at the competition, then I went to his potluck maybe 2 weeks after. It is a very cool place, and Esteban's got great tacos. So
Esteban's got great tacos.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
I love me some
Yeah.
tacos, man. I just found out not too long ago. I'm like, I forgot I think a quarter Mexican or some shit like that. I don't know. So
Well,
I don't know how
great
to. Yeah.
tacos. So
So I could be the judge of that.
Yeah. I just go, hey man, this is free food. This is great. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for that, man. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I tell you what, we were having a conversation. Well, having Bill on here was just great. I mean, like you said, he's such an all-around good guy. We clicked right off the back. I feel like I bother him so much sometimes, and he's like, "No, man, you're cool, because I'm always on social media. Like, dude, what should I do? Should I get this? Should I get that?"
He's got nothing else going on.
No, he's
Yeah.
he's great, man. He's great, dude. He's been very helpful because when you go on social media and you ask questions, you'll get like 30 different responses from people, right? Some people say buy bazooka, some other ones go say just get a single action or whatever. The ranges of these are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So just having that one person, you can trust and be like, hey, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Can you help me out?
That is, as somebody from the outside looking in, I grew up around firearms, most of my life. And, even from a little kid, my dad would take me out and we would go shooting and stuff. Obviously different time back then, 2008 pretty much changed everything, with the introduction of like the Magpul Dynamics videos. Because I mean, as soon as those came out, everybody wanted to be Travis Haley, and well, at the time Chris Costa was like the big guy. So I mean, nobody knew that he was going to be spinning around on a runway in Tokyo, a couple years later. I don't know if you ever see. Do you know who Chris Costa is?
No, I don't think I've heard of him.
Man, he's a legend of the firearms industry. He actually owned Magpul from, I believe, 2000 and I want to say 2006 all the way up until like 2016. Chris
Yeah,
Costa, I think he's U.S. Coast Guard, and
yeah.
he's a real big flashy kind of guy. He has like a unique look. And if you ever seen any of the Magpul Dynamics videos,
I think I have. I believe
yeah,
I
like
have because
trailers and
yeah,
stuff. Oh
yeah.
man, I watched
Bro,
those with my dad like way back when, and man, I saw that and I was like, "Whoa, wait a second! Like, we don't have to sit on the bench. Like, what are you talking about? Like, these guys are running around doing all this
dude,
stuff." I'm
right?
like, "Oh,
Let me
oh,
tell you
hell
something,
yeah!"
man. Ever since when I moved to Pennsylvania, I started following more people, and as I'm following them, I'm like, holy shit, they do all this? Because in my mind, it was go behind a lane somewhere, you're just
Hmm.
firing down the range. Now you're running around, doing all these drills, safely doing all these drills, firing off, man dumping, like it's crazy, right? And it's
The
cool. I mean,
the firearms industry has evolved rapidly, and I would say
yeah,
probably in the last maybe 10 years. I would almost say that since the dawn of the war on terror, I think the firearms industry like rapidly evolved because I mean you had the assault weapons ban that was eventually ran out during President Bush, I think that was in 2000. It might have been 2000 that the assault weapons ban actually ran out. Now, granted, you still can't have anything full auto before 1986, but
yeah,
the uh, the assault weapons ban ran out, and man, I mean, the hot new thing was the AR-15. I mean, that was on every shelf in America, and people bought them up. I mean, like it was going out of style in the firearms industry. It has evolved. It's been a slow go. Obviously, you have different factions within. You have the more traditional, older kind of guys, and then you have
yeah.
you know these. I think last time I was in a gun store, I heard an old guy call guys like us gamers. He was like, they're running around like it's a video game and shit.
Fucking Call of
Yeah.
Duty on the range.
Yeah, and I thought that was a
That's
unique way of
hilarious.
looking at it. But I mean, it has definitely modernized. It has definitely
Yeah,
modernized, and I mean, I think they should be a little bit more forceful on exactly what the modernization is in the firearms industry for sure.
mm.
Um, I think people are afraid of like the marketing aspects and actually getting your image out there. And I mean, you look at Daniel Defense, especially in this particular
Oh yeah,
situation. Instead of kind of bearing the brunt and just being like, we make firearms. It's the people. It's not the firearm that's the
of
issue.
course.
They ran and hid, and I mean they've had their own travesty, well, not travesty, but like they've had
You
their own
know,
run-ins with the NHL with their
yeah,
whole thing with Daniel Defense and like their ads and all that. It's a complicated subject, but I mean hopefully the firearms
yeah.
industry modernizes.
There's in particular, it's got to be really tough, and I want to dive into that part because I want to pick out some other things, especially in the marketing aspect of that of
Sure.
this whole world, right? But it's got to be tough on them because it wasn't like just. I mean, I want to word this without sounding like a complete maniac or whatever, but this involved children, right?
Hmm.
So this involving children is just such a sensitive situation.
Sure.
I cannot imagine what it would feel like to be in the position of any of the executives in a company, just having to make decisions or just having to stand up, on all these attacks. They must be receiving some crazy stuff right now.
Oh,
So
I
having
wouldn't
to
doubt it.
face those situations, it's got to be difficult, man. I can't imagine the headaches that are coming about with that.
I mean, obviously nobody here is in charge of anything like that. So I mean,
Yeah,
it is hard to wrap your head around. I mean, I guess I guess maybe you do take a step back, and then there is a positive to putting yourself out there. I mean, there
yeah,
is like if
Absolutely.
you get out there and go, listen, it's a shame what happened, and I mean, obviously we have a mental health crisis, in America,
Yeah.
right now. But I mean, say it,
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah. I think it would have been it's a whole different dynamic. I mean, I don't know what exactly they're doing. Right. I haven't been following them directly to know what they're doing. But in a scenario like that, yeah, definitely take that step back, evaluate everything that's happening,
Mhm.
and then then approach it, right? So I don't know if that's what they're doing. Again, I'm not following that's close enough, but definitely not retreat from the situation, because they're using the tragic, what the government does, right? And this is both rhinos and Democrats. What they do is that they exploit situations like this, right?
Oh yeah.
And they need places to point fingers at. And this is what these fucks do. They want to point fingers, and they're going to point fingers, and they're going to make villains out of the people who shouldn't be the villains here, right? And they're going to make enemies out of things that shouldn't be the enemies here, and all that. So now, my question to a company like this, like, what do you do in a situation like that? What can you do in a situation like that, right? Because again, you don't know what they're facing. I don't know. I imagine they're getting crazy threats right now all over the place.
Well, I imagine that there's definitely lawsuits or something. Because I mean, you look at
Yeah.
the Sandy Hook situation with I believe it was Colt. They're eligible for a lawsuit. So I'm sure Daniel Defense is looking at this, going, "Man, here it comes."
Yeah.
So again, I'm sure they could weather whatever kind of storm. But I mean, still, I think what people make and maybe this is a quasi controversial topic, or stance to be on, but firearms are dangerous. Firearms are
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
absolutely.
it's 100%. I mean, you have basically a cannon going off
Mm.
at your face. Or, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? They're inherently dangerous. Yeah. I mean, so is driving a car. So is eating. I mean, I think people forget that these things are um, there is a little bit of a gamification of firearms, and especially you see that with kids who, or maybe not kids, but people who are unfamiliar with firearms. They see it,
Oh,
they go, "Oh
play
man,
Call of Duty.
yes." They see Call of Duty, or they see a movie, and then they go, "Oh man, like it's just like a video game or whatever." It's not.
It's not. It's
It's
not.
not, and there is a responsibility factor to that. I mean, obviously, first rule of safety of all firearms is be safe and make sure that your chamber's unloaded, and make sure if you don't know what you're doing, don't touch it. You're obviously your standard firearm safety rules, but I mean, you look at the way that firearms are perceived, especially in like movies. It's like, man, you just go.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's it's
You
it's
know,
totally wild.
it's insane because, like, I remember uh, shooting the pistol, right? Shooting the
Hmm.
rifle to me is relatively much easier than what it is to shoot a pistol.
Sure.
Yeah, right. So when I shot a pistol, I mean, the very first time I went to the range, I'm like, when I close, like, all right, let's do this. Or did the standard, street shooting style, just just point and shoot, and you think
Sure.
that's it.
Sure.
You think that's good enough to hit the target, but it's not, right? You're gonna have groupings all over the place, and when it takes work, it takes training. It's not, especially when it comes to like the situations where a shooting happens. They're like, why didn't he just pop him in the leg? Well, it ain't that easy just to
Oh
pop
no,
somebody in the
no.
leg.
That
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It ain't that simple.
Anybody that's ever fired a firearm in their life, and they're like, and you hear somebody say, "Oh, well, just shoot him in the leg,"
Not
man.
that
Yeah,
simple.
yeah, okay. Well, like
Good
I
luck.
can't even have a conversation with somebody like that. It just doesn't flat out make any sense.
It's crazy, but it's like, even if you go, like, I don't know if you're into archery, right? But
I tried to get into it a few times. My buddy's real
yeah,
big into it.
but like you think about archery, right? Like, I've got into archery for some time. I haven't done it in a while. Actually, I got my ball right back here.
Mhm.
uh, and I love it, man. It's really relaxing. It's cool, but it's not as easy as one would have thought, right? Because the image I had from archery before I got started was, all right, grab the bow, pull back, posture up, shoot the shit, you're good to go.
Sure.
No, the bow I got, there's actually mechanisms behind it. There's tools that you need in order to fire the bow. There's posture, there's breathing. There's so much that goes into it, right? From hand placement to everything. And then you got something like Hollywood. Let's talk about Marvel real quick. What's his name? Hawkeye, who's just
Oh,
popping
sure.
fucking arrow, fucking knocking nickels out of, like, 300 yards out,
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
one shot. Like, it's insane, right? So there's there's this false representation when it comes out there. And again, it's just Hollywood, it's just a movie, right? We shouldn't really take that as real life, but there's people who do.
I
And
think
I think that's where there's an issue. Yeah.
no, for sure. I mean, people are very detached from what firearms like are. You
Yeah.
have a lot of people who come into this, I hate to use the word space, but into this firearms industry or
Mm.
whatever you want to call it, area zone, and that's all they know. So like they really think that a suppressor, like once you put that on, you're like, man, you can't hear it. It's it's like it's not like that. And,
No.
it's
Uh-uh.
yeah. The first time I
It's
ever
crazy.
actually physically heard one, I was like, man, this thing is still friggin' loud. What the
Dude,
hell are these
dude.
people talking about?
Let me tell you something. I got myself, so I have a 5.56
Hmm.
YHM, Yankee, what's it?
Yeah, like
Releases.
Yankee Hill Machine.
Yes, there we go. Okay. Love it. First time I went, I have the correct the charging handle, all these other parts, because I know there's a lot of backlash from the gas that comes out of it.
Sure.
So I took it to the range. I attached it. It's so sweet. My favorite part of the suppressor is when you put it on and you hear the click, click.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just, something about it is just so relieving. But besides the point. So you get on there, you're looking down range, and when you fire down range, your thing is gonna be quiet. I mean, if you have no experience whatsoever with it, right? It's still pretty loud. What it
Oh,
did,
yeah.
what mine's at least did a good job with is suppressing the fireball that comes out of it. So like
Mhm.
that, and it does reduce the sound a bit, but not significantly enough where you could shoot somebody behind them and nobody hears anything.
Oh,
Right?
no,
It's
no.
yeah. What's this sucked though? The first shot I fired off with the suppressor, I forgot to have my glasses on. Right, safety first, guys.
Oh, yeah. Safety first. You got all the gas in your eye. Yeah.
Holy shit, bro!
Yeah.
That burned my eye. I'm like, oh, I was not prepared for that.
Well, and then as people are is the fashion right now to keep on lowering, or putting a smaller and smaller barrel on their gun. All
Oh
that
yeah.
pressure, the dwell time is hitting that suppressor. It's building up, and then,
Yeah.
man, sending all that gas straight back into your eye.
I can't imagine. So like I have it on an 11.5 barrel.
Oh yeah,
But I know people do like 7.5 barrels. And I'm just like,
yeah.
that
5.56 that doesn't make any sense.
release.
You're throwing a toothbrush down a hallway pretty much. It's not that bad, but I just don't understand it. 14,
Yeah.
14 and a half, 13.7. I think, that
Yeah.
that's it.
I mean, on the 11.5, it's like I felt the difference enough where I felt it's more enjoyable outside of that first blast that came in my face. After that part, dude, I did not want to stop shooting, man. I just had to conserve my ammo because I'm like, I can't go through everything right now. But it's definitely different now. I really want to see what a suppressor is like on a 300 blackout subsonic. That's what I do want to see.
You'll probably see somebody at potluck that's got he's got one, man. That's quiet.
Yeah, and that's
it's
kind of
it's almost like you can only hear the action. Like you can actually hear the spring in the buffer tube going. It's pretty
dude. That's
pretty
what
quiet.
I want. That's
Yeah.
what I want.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. So like it's crazy, Catherine, because when you look at so what I've learned from, and correct me if I'm wrong here, though, but you got 300 blackout, you got 5.56, right? Almost the same, I guess, but just the 300 blackout has like a bigger bullet on it, right?
The
what
parent
is it?
case. The parent case
Okay.
is the same. It's a necked up 223 with a 300
Okay. There you go.
caliber round in it.
Yeah, that thing looks it looks well. I only seen it in pictures. I haven't actually seen a 300 blackout in person. But it looks menacing compared to the 5.56.
You ever see an AK round?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Pretty much the same thing.
Actually, here. Well, this is a 308. I mean, it's close enough.
Yeah, a little shorter, a little stubbier, but yeah, more or less it's the same thing.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. So there's a different it's two different things, right? Like from reality to what's on TV. When you have a firearm, and that's one thing I think it's a big problem, especially those who are criticizing heavily the gun community. I'm like, look, a lot of the people who I personally know who are talking out against this have no experience whatsoever in this community.
100%. Those are the loudest people right now talking about it.
At
It's either
most-
politicians with security detail. It's either people that live in other countries.
I'm going to get to that next because there's a big thing that just passed. There's something else that's still pending. And
The red flag laws?
But before we even get to that, there's another big fucking issue right now that I'm having a serious problem with. And we'll get to that. But before we even get to those aspects there, you know, I see a lot of these people, it's either they have no experience, some of them may have fired a gun here and there, you know, gone to the range, but that's about it, right? And that's really what I've noticed, right? So I'm like, you know, who are these people to tell us what they're telling us and have no fucking experience, no clue what they're talking about most of the time? Right?
And lately,
especially like politicians, exactly.
And lately,
Bro,
by the way,
God,
British people have been sliding into my DMs. I'm like, sit down. You're not American.
Bro, like,
sit down.
Yo, dude,
I find that very
bro.
interesting. I find that very interesting that British people would have that, especially right now. And I mean, we can get into this later, but with the Ukraine situation, I mean, you know, they were giving out guns to everybody. You know, you just showed up and they were like, here, you get a gun too. And I find that very unique that British people would have that. You know, and what's funny is actually I've watched a few things specifically about Britain and gun rights, and you can actually own a firearm, and they have like a whole set of rules and laws that make no sense. You can just show up and buy a suppressor, no background check, no nothing.
Bro,
you could just buy one. The firearm is what's regulated. Anybody could just walk in and be like, "Yeah, I'll buy a suppressor." And just walk right out. There's no problem. The firearm.
That makes no sense.
let me not incriminate myself here, because I'm thinking like, yo, here's a process, man. I'm already 70 something days in waiting for a suppressor, and I'm like, dude, I'm like at the point where it's like, at this point, I'm like, man, I almost don't want it. I still want it, but I almost don't, because I want to get something else and suppress that. But this is already in process. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like this is almost purposely done because they want you to be discouraged from buying more of them. I mean, I could be wrong. It's just, you know, here's my tinfoil hat right now, just thinking, and that's their plan.
Man, I mean, it's kind of hard, you know, to say. I would imagine that, let's put it like this. I'm sure that they're not dragging their feet, but I'm sure they're not like, man, I'm going to really hit it hard at 9 a.m. today. Like, you know, I'm really get in there and just start doing these things.
Let's give American their rights today. Yeah. That's not what they're saying. Yeah.
No.
Fuck that.
They take it little.
Useless, man.
They take it little bit, piece by piece, is what I've been noticing.
Exactly, and they're
useless, then people don't notice it, because then people are conditioned to like, okay, well, this is normal. Okay, like it's not all done at once, you know. So it's like that toxic person in a relationship. It's not all at once. It's little by little.
Yo, you know what? They're that toxic Colombian woman that comes in and tell my father-in-law
like
said,
with
you know,
the
he's
apple?
cracking up. no, not with that. They come in here and they'll sell you the sun and the moon and everything and just fuck you over.
Exactly.
Like that's seriously that's what they are to me. Look, you know.
He's like, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, sounds great, right?
Yeah, I'm sold.
But you know, they're very like, I don't understand a lot of the things that they do. Like, for example, when it comes to the whole pistol brace, not able to put a buttstock, how they classified, you know, short barrel to a standard 16-inch, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, yo, they just make no sense to me. Like, even before I'm you know, before I got into this whole world, this whole community, right? I'm like, all right, it sounds kind of dumb, but maybe there's a purpose behind it. Now I'm over a year, going into 2 years, owning firearms and stuff, and you know, getting familiar with it. I'm like, this is just fucking stupid, bro. Like, these people are just fucking stupid.
I mean, the people who make these laws have no clue what they're dealing with. I mean, when they're talking about barrel shrouds and nonsense like that, you're just like, you mean the handguard that protects your hands from like getting burned like on the barrel? Like, yeah, you know, I mean, why wouldn't we want to have those? It doesn't make any sense. But I mean, if you think that that's insane, I implore you, look at your rights when you actually have to discharge a firearm, like say in real life, like in defense of your life. Look at those laws, like talk to a lawyer, and wait till you hear like, oh yeah, you're gonna go to jail. I mean,
it's expected.
Get into it's almost a guarantee that if you're in your own home even, and somebody breaks in and you have a altercation with that person, it is a 99% guarantee you're going to jail, at least for the night.
I've heard.
Because the thing is, one of the things that actually I learned in the firearms class that I took, because I do have U.S. Law Shield. So,
good.
Yeah. So one of the things that he was explaining was, okay, you can get into an altercation with somebody. Like, let's just say you kill the dude, right? Like his grandma could be like, oh, that's my little angel. Like, and then later she could
Oh yeah,
come after you. Even
Simple.
though
Fucking
if he
crazy.
was the one that obviously perpetrated the whole
Oh.
thing and almost wanted to kill your family, you can go to
Like,
jail.
what sense does this make where, you know, where you're a law abiding citizen who's protecting your family, protecting yourself, yet you could become the criminal in the situation where you're just minding your own business. Somebody come into your property. Now, I'm still getting familiar with Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania seems very similar to the way Florida works, which is awesome. But real quick, I'm gonna point this out because it's a great win, but there's still big concerns. What is that? Well, what is it? Supreme Court today ruled out the stuff from New York that's actual national where you can conceal carry now, right?
Yeah,
Well, you
yeah.
can't place the limitations that, like, let's say, like New York has, right, which are ridiculous.
They have to shall issue permits. They can't.
Correct, exactly.
Yeah, no more may issue permits. It has to be
exactly. Dude, I lived in New York, man, and I'll tell you, when I was thinking about getting my my permit out there, it's such a pain in the ass process.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
dude, it's like, it's expensive, not guaranteed. Okay, well, just that part in itself, not guaranteed, is a pain in the ass, right?
Even if your record is clean.
So, even if your record is clean, you have to the way they had it is that you have to present them a good enough reason for them to grant you the permit, which is bullshit because they could just deny you for whatever fucking reason.
I think back in the day, now don't quote me, but I'm almost certain that Jon Stewart did a Daily Show bit about firearms, and he was denied for it. So it's not even like being a celebrity or anything like that. Because
Really?
I honestly think I looked up earlier today. I think there's only 2,300 work permits. So like that means like bodyguards or probably somebody that's on a security detail. You have, I think it's like 10,000 actual permits for firearms in the city. That's
my
it.
question is, who are those 10,000? Because that says a lot, right? Because a lot of what I hear that goes around a lot, and I can't believe it, based on what I've seen over there, is that, you know, they really make it difficult for, let's say, like minority groups who come for where their economic situations are screw. It's a whole fucked up situation. But if you go to like the people, let's call them elites in this case, they're the ones who have all of it because they have all the access to get that. And it's just like there's an off balance that's there. You know what I'm saying? Because in reality, how I feel is that these people in those communities where even where my wife and I lived at, we definitely could use those. You know, I mean, criminals had them. I had my windows down, and I remember one of our last weeks when we were in Staten Island, I heard gunshots going off. I'm like, well, I bet you that wasn't the cops, and I bet you that wasn't legal. You know, somebody just got popped. Like,
I'm actually I'm on the same page as you. I'm very interested on exactly who those people are, because you're talking about like it's almost beyond exclusive. I mean, you talk about the entire population of New York City as a whole, and you're talking about just 10,000 people. It sounds like a big number, but when you're talking about just the population of New York City, that's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, no, like what's the population right now in New York City? Let's see.
Probably a couple million.
So in 2020, they had 8.38. I mean, well, let's call it 8 million. All right, 8 million people.
You're talking about 10,000? Oh man, that's
nothing.
That's
percentage, yeah.
Bro. Yeah. that's not even 1%. Like, it's insane, right? So with that in mind, it's like, okay, who the fuck are those people, right? Like, what were they able to do to be able to receive those that not anybody else who's in a situation that they can really utilize that to protect their lives haven't been able to get it, right?
A lot of people with favors and stuff like that. I mean,
money.
Money.
I think it's money.
Yeah.
It has to be. It just has to be, right? I have not met one person in New York City personally who's been able to conceal carry, right? Especially people who could really utilize it. Because again, if you go to these low income neighborhoods, it's like a fucking war zone, bro. Like, you know, and I don't laugh. It's not funny. It's just I'm laughing because like it's crazy. Like
it's unfortunately. I mean, I don't have firsthand experience of it, but at our club we had our last two gun themed event called Gangland, and a lot of the research I did for it was watching a lot of videos on the internet, and I mean, it is very disheartening to see like the level of crime in the country. Like, I mean, now granted, I guess I'm disassociating it, but like you're talking about from watching it on TV or on your computer screen your phone, whatever, and actually like living it are two different things, obviously. But it is very disheartening to see that in America that the and I continue to call it a mental health crisis in America.
It is, man. It
That
is.
is a common thing.
Let me tell you, like I've lived in those communities, right? Like I've been there. I've served like through church in those communities as well, and it's definitely it's sad. It's sad to see the mental state of some people. What people have to resort to in order just to survive, or the challenges they face because it could be abusive family, or they're just involved with the wrong group of people that gets them in the wrong kinds of shit. Like I have a family, someone whose family who was involved heavily in that stuff got shot up. Just being around in association with these people, like it's a danger zone, right? And it's a shame that a lot of these people there, we're talking about, like, especially the Democrats. I want to point out the Democrats here, right? Because I hear them the most talk about this shit.
Sure.
Like they put themselves in a position where they care so much for these people in these communities, and they want to do so much because they're so they're for the people and all this shit, right? But you go in there and it's like, what the fuck are you really doing for them? I mean, if you talk to any of these people in there, majority in those neighborhoods that I've spoken to, that I personally met, they just forgotten. if I might say, that's what the feeling is, right?
It is. You're about to get me on my politics shit.
Let's go, bro. Let's go. No
I'm all
chills
for
here.
it. I'm here for
Fucking
it.
go.
I mean,
No filter.
Yeah, well, okay, so it's on now. All right, so the way I look at it is this. So without touching on Democrats so far, the Republican Party, let's deal within our own, somewhat right now. I mean, for years, they've done nothing. They have been basically a speed bump for the Democrats. Okay, so Democrats come out and say, okay, now we're gonna do a financial package. We're gonna do a $2 trillion financial package. We're gonna do all this stuff. We're gonna send $460,000 to Afghanistan to invest in transgender identity in the Sahara Desert or something. It's something like it's a slush fund. It doesn't make any sense.
Insane.
Yeah,
And
gender studies.
Then you have the Republicans jump in and they go, well, how about 200,000? How about zero? How about zero?
Yeah,
like,
and that's
like,
that.
without knowing,
Oh my god.
and that's the thing is like they're a speed bump. They're not doing anything. And then, I mean, now granted, we have some people, like Rand Paul and a couple other people that are out there that do things. But I mean, for the most part, these people are
cowardice.
feckless. They're useless.
Look, I gotta stop y'all right there, because what you're saying is very true, right? And this is look, if you ask me who I'm more pissed off at right now within both sides, I'm gonna tell you the fucking rhinos. You know
100%.
You know why? Because at least these pieces of shit over here, they'll tell you in the face what they're gonna do.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah.
These them right here. I'm like, all right, shake your hand. I'm your friend. I got you. We're gonna protect your freedoms. But then when they're in power and you see them put, voting in legislation and all this other stuff, and you're like, whoa, did you just support this, or did you just cave into them? Like, what's going on here, bro? You know what I'm saying? Like right now. Look right now.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, he's
oh my god, I cannot stand that guy. He voted for that.
He did, and he's taking $13 million from the NRA while doing it.
Bro,
and it's just like, hey.
Are you kidding me? I didn't hear that. Can you elaborate on that?
Wait, what?
Basically, all these people from Pat Toomey all the way up to Mitt Romney, all these people are taking money from the NRA. These people are major, well, they're not donators, but the NRA donates to these people. They take money for their campaign, and they're going, yeah, check this out. So I mean, and you can look that up. I mean, that's the NRA.
I believe it. I believe it.
People, and they just go, no, not this time.
Let me tell you something, man. I gave them $10 because the one range I was telling you is a requirement. I was like, yeah. So I'm like, it's just it's not a big deal. But
you should probably give it to USCCA or somebody else.
Well, no, they got it. They get way more. They get way more. Yeah. But that was just $10 for them, right? One group that I really like is what is it? Oh my god, I hate when the words leave my head. It starts with an F.
Oh, Firearms Protection Coalition.
Yes, them. That's what. Okay, they're one. The other one's Gun Owners of America.
Yep.
I really enjoy them too. I follow.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah. I definitely like following both of them. So both of them, the USCCA, also another great one. And those are really the three that I follow the most right now, where I see the most. I'm seeing the most result, the least amount of any form of compromise. Like the NRA, there's always a story popping out of some shit that they're compromising on, or a variety of other stuff, right? So I feel like their time might come short at some point. Some of these other organizations might just grow with the people, because there's a lot. I feel like there's a huge volume of people turning away from them and turning to these other groups. From what I've seen, I don't know what you think.
They're entrenched. I mean, the NRA is entrenched. You're talking about these people talk about dynasties. The NRA is a dynasty. I mean, they've been around since Christ. I mean, basically almost slavery times. I mean, you're talking. They've been around since forever. They ain't going nowhere. They're always going to be around in some way, shape, or form. And I mean, you look at it. I think there's only a few people that really pull a paycheck out of the NRA, and these people are multimillionaires. Where does the rest of these monies go? Where does this rest of this money go?
And they're under constant pressure because of that stuff, right? Like, there's always issues
they're
are coming out, scandals
with certain things.
Oh my God, it's insane. It's insane. But it's crazy to think this. It's crazy because we're supposed to trust our politicians, right? Like, at least that's the whole idea, right? They're supposed to be here, do things for the people, for us, to be able to have better lives, to live, in liberty, and all this other stuff, right?
Their job is to protect our rights. That's basically what it is.
Exactly. And to see what's going on, like right now we have the red flag laws that are being pushed through, right? And it irks me to see that there's not only Democrats, but there's also Republicans are in support of that, okay? And, they're like, oh, it's common sense, gun laws and all this other stuff. Now, there's some things in the bill that I know of so far that I'm like, all right, I could get down with that. Like, there's one portion of it that's in regards to mental health. I don't see a problem with that, right? The red flag one is the one that's really a big concern there.
Why is it a big concern? That's dangerous.
Oh, it's very dangerous. Dude, I was talking to somebody and actually saw in the podcast, I mean, not in the podcast, on YouTube too, now they passed the whole situation where you could carry like in New York and all that. And I'm like, all right, cool. Actually, you know where I saw it? Somebody commented on somebody else's post on Twitter. Twitter's a war zone.
Oh, God.
So
I stay out of
there. I don't go on Twitter.
Listen. Yeah. This lady, like whenever a post comes out, let's say that Kalia Noor posted something, these people just come out of the woodwork and just start talking all kinds of shit. So this one particular person, and I'm like, yo, that's actually something that I see people doing. And she's like, okay, it's fine. You guys going to carry New York and red flags pass? Well, then what I'm going to do is just going to call the cops and start reporting people.
Exactly.
I'm like, yo, come on.
Well,
and
that's the problem with the red flag laws. I mean, in there, I believe there is a section of the red flag law that does say that there should be a punishment for falsifying a report. But
it's not going to stop people.
There's no definition. Now, if you say,
there you go,
if it's 10 years federal time for basically what you're doing by falsifying a report is you are creating a situation. And God forbid this does pass, but just say, hypothetically speaking, you're creating a situation where you're going to have people, you're going to have the police or a more militarized version of the police, whether it be whoever, the SWAT or whatever, come to somebody's home, and whether they're mentally stable or not, there is an innate God-given right for your firearms and your protection, your liberty and your First Amendment and all the things that we hold dear in America. You're signing somebody's death wish. If you say
that's exactly it.
Yeah,
because
if you put a 10-year minimum federal jail time for falsifying report, you'd never have a false report ever. People are like, oh hell no, like I never call that. I'll call when I got a real problem, but that lady, man, she ain't never gonna call.
Let me tell you something. And even if somebody doesn't know that portion and still reports, if they get 10 years, you know what? I don't want to go through any of the bullshit period, but if I know that person's gonna get 10 years behind bars after I prove that they're wrong, fuck it, I'm gonna get some satisfaction. I'll be honest, I'm gonna get some satisfaction. You try to fuck me over, there you go, right? I'm gonna be an ass. Like, all right, go to hell. But what's crazy about that, because like questions come to mind, right? I'm going to use the COVID situation as an example, right? When the whole vaccine mandates were going on, a lot of people were, I'm not going to get vaccinated. Nah, not doing it.
But then they caved in.
Yeah, if they're
Oh
gonna
yeah.
poke my arm, they're gonna catch these hands. All this bullshit. Like I
Yep.
was told by so many people. But the moment came where little things were, oh, you can't go to the movie somewhere, or you can't take a flight, or you can't go to the gym, or you can't sit at the restaurant.
The slightest
Fine. I'm
uncomfort.
gonna get vaccinated. I'm gonna get vaccinated.
Oh man.
But then and then they just try to justify. So my point with that, with what we're talking about now, is that like if I learn anything, it's just like how much people talk but don't back the shit they say, right? So now we're over here in this situation where we're facing a big problem. And you know, part of me is being optimistic and saying it's not going to go all the way through, right? But let's say it does. Let's say it's in place where we're facing this issue. It's a real problem we're gonna have. At the moment when we're facing that issue, what are we gonna do? Are people gonna start caving in? Are people actually gonna stand up and say, "Oh, fuck you, I'm not doing that"?
Well,
You know?
I know that you mentioned COVID, but as much as that is applicable, I think this particular red flag law issue, whatever you want to call it, this is more of a feminist issue than it is a COVID issue. And why I say that is, and what I mean by feminism, I'm not talking about third wave feminism. I'm talking about like a women's issue. They make this big point in the bill, like this boyfriend loophole, for domestic violence and being able to report
Mm.
somebody. What are we supposed to do? Okay, the red flag law is there. Okay, so say it takes 2 days before the police come. You have a boyfriend or somebody, your domestic partner that is becoming violent towards you. You go to the gun store. You go, I need a firearm to protect myself. Now, right now, you could get that gun as long as you're a law-abiding citizen today. Right now, you could do that. When this bill passes, now the cops are not going to come to like tomorrow, but just say they do. Now, what if your violent boyfriend shows up that night? Now the gun store, you went to the gun store, they say, fill out this paperwork. We'll see you in 10 days.
Yeah.
Now what?
Well, yeah. I mean,
I think
wasn't
it's a
there a
huge
case?
women's issue, and I
Well,
think they're
no.
ignoring it.
There was a case actually not too long ago. I remember hearing about where that same scenario
Mhm.
happened in New Jersey, where this lady was trying to get a firearm in order to protect herself, and her abusive spouse came out and ended up killing her.
Oh yeah.
You know,
That's
Oh,
so
I
sad.
believe
because
that.
of the whole time. Yeah, like I've heard of scenarios like that. But even with that being like, we know that's a problem. But my big thing is, tracking back a little bit here. It's like, at what point do people say, yeah, this is enough? Like, nah, fuck that. I'm not giving into
The
this
thing
order.
is, like with
You know?
people, Ronnie, it's like people don't really stand up until it affects them. That's the problem. I think if
But then-
people were to stand up,
Yeah.
well, like even if the fight was not at their door and stood with their neighbor, so the fight doesn't come to their door, we wouldn't be in this situation.
But that's just the thing right there. So now this is a problem that potentially presents itself to us. That's a problem that comes towards us, right? Because if we're gun owners, we're all going to be in the same predicament where we can potentially fall into a illegal issue with that, right? That's just going to make our life
It's
impossible.
an optics thing, I
So-
think. Personally, it's an optics issue. You have okay, so you have MAD. Let's use Mothers Against Drunk Driving for an example. You have all these moms outside doing this big million women march. Walking up and down the street in D.C. They're going to the monument, all that stuff. Okay, now your counter is men for drunk driving. Now obviously that's not us, but now you have guys, women, AR-15s out walking around the monument. What is the news going to focus on? The
ARs.
yeah, the optics. So when you ask that question of like, when is enough going to be enough? I mean, personally, I think that unfortunately that time's gone. That time was gone well before any of us were around. I think that was
I
a
would agree.
failure of probably the Bush senior administration. That's when people should have been like, whoa, hold on here. We're going down a slippery slope here with the firearms deal. But I mean, because there was a time in America where you could hit up a Sears catalog and get a fully automatic Tommy gun. I mean, oh yeah, absolutely. In the 1930s and 40s, the Chicago Mafia, that's how they got their firearms.
You know what?
They hit up a
You know
Sears
what?
catalog and they were just like,
You're right.
boom.
That's
Somebody
crazy.
told me. Now this is what. So I went to a Republican event out here in Pennsylvania so long ago, and the table I was sitting at, there was this much older couple there, and the guy, traditional dude. You know, he had the NRA hat, and his jacket was buttoned. It's like really cool guy.
Yeah.
So we started a conversation, and he was talking to me about like back in those days when they would purchase firearms in New York City, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not just in New York City. And I'm like, you know, I should have confirmed what he said, but I'm like, he dropped the word Macy's. I'm like,
It's crazy how times have
Macy's
changed.
Yeah, I'm like, did he just really say Macy's?
I think
if I go to Macy's now, you're finding I
no.
even a fucking shirt with a gun on. Like,
no,
you know, it's crazy.
It's
yeah. So he was like, I got an M1. He's like an M1. I think it was an M1 Garand out there, and I'm just like sitting there like, bro, I can't even go to Macy's and get a BB gun. What you mean? Like that's crazy.
No, times have definitely changed, and for sure you have. I mean, what I think he's talking about is basically you filled out a postcard with a cashier's check, and I mean you're talking about. I think the last time you nostalgically look at one, I think a fully automatic 45 caliber Tommy gun was like $430. Obviously back then that was a different time. Inflation. But I mean,
how much are they now?
Oh,
like I see like
probably,
upwards like 8,000 more.
Yeah, 10, 15,000. I mean, you're talking big money, but yeah. But I mean, you look at the way that times have changed, and what's funny is that there is still places in America that are somewhat kind of like that. I went out to Western Pennsylvania a couple years ago on a hunting trip to Mifflin County. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's probably about 2 hours east of Pittsburgh. There was a grocery store in town that was also a firearms store.
As I said, I like where this is going.
Yeah.
Hey, babe, I'm going to go do some groceries real quick and pick up some boxes of ammo.
Yeah. I can get my eggs. I got a couple things of chicken. I got all my barbecue stuff. Hey, give me a box of shells. It's just like ready to go.
My father-in-law sitting on the couch is like, me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's crazy. Like, I can't imagine. Like, you see, like, that's awesome, right? And it's just so different in these other areas. It's crazy because a guy reached out to me today, actually, and he's thinking about moving to Pennsylvania from New York City. And really cool guy. And he was talking to me about, like, he's been to Texas, and in Texas, he shot firearms before, all kinds of stuff out there, it being Texas. But in New York City, you obviously really can't do that, right? So he's asking me about stuff in Pennsylvania, and he's like, wow, dude, like that? I'm like, yeah, it's like, it's insane. Pretty much what he says, like, you wouldn't know that if you would never have, like, leave New York, right? Because New York is just so restrictive in the things you can do. You come here, it's like, I remember when I first came over here, I was in disbelief because I'm like, when I looked at the paperwork for New York, well, first, let me backtrack again. My father-in-law will always come and say, yeah, I just walked into the store and, I just picked something out in like 10 minutes. And I'm here like, fuck, I can't even get a water gun.
Man, that's the best Nixon picks that's ever happened ever. 10 minutes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
wow.
No, I'm exaggerating time here, but well, not necessarily, because when I got my first one, I was out like in a few minutes, man. I wasn't there long at all. And this is my first year ever buying one. Yeah, dude, I loved it, man. I was sitting there. I'm like, I guess I'm going to be here like an hour. I was out like, I kid you not, I think it was out in like 20 minutes. Like, it was quick, I'm like, dude, this is crazy. Like, I just walked out, being from another place where I'm not used to this, right? It was definitely a big thing. I mean, I went through the background check and all this other stuff. I know a lot of people, though, who might have little issues in their background or whatever else, they can take, I've heard, upward of days, depending on the situation.
The NICS pack, I believe the federal time limit is 3 days. I believe if they cannot do your background check in 3 days, they actually can give you, well, I think they're actually obligated to give you your firearm. I believe so.
If they can't do it in 3 days, that's something I would like to look into, because that's kind of interesting.
Well, that's another thing that's very cleverly snuck into this law that most people are not seeing is this federal loophole. That they keep talking about this nonsense. The government can have unlimited time to do this background. Basically, if that passes and that piece of legislation passes, what you're going to have is people who are going to go out, attempt to buy a firearm, and they're going to go, okay, the system's a little slow today. We'll call you. 2 days are going to pass. 3 days are going to pass. A month is going to pass. You go, where's my firearm? We just didn't get to it yet, man. We're working on it. That'll be the last time that you will ever, because there's no time limit. It's 3 days or boom, you're out the door with your firearm, and you won't have to pass any more legislation. That will be it. They'll go, hey, that's enough. Well, we did 2 today.
And that's what the whole bill is a scary thing.
Yeah.
Right? And it goes back to what I just said earlier, right? At what point do people say it's enough? And this is something I've been asking myself for a very long time, even before the firearm community. So here's something I've noticed for a while, right? Before I became the person I am now, I was more of a liberal, right? I mean, I marched with BLM back in 2014, 15, whatever, in New York City, you know. And when I had marched with them, like now, if you ask me the same, if I would do it again, hell no. But back then, just New York City, didn't know better, young, just believed whatever, right? So I'm there. I marched with them. I remember we met in the city. We marched all the way towards Brooklyn Bridge. We got to Brooklyn Bridge area. The cops were on the other side, and they all had the cameras out. So I've been in a couple of almost like riot situations back in those days. And, the cops out there, they got the shields, they got they record you with camcorders, and they're just going back and forth, right? This group that we started off with was easily a few thousand people. I mean, it was just swarming the streets like hell, man. It was crazy. When it got to the very end, the cops were there threatening to arrest us and all that. I kid you, it's hilarious because I'm like, this shows like people are just in this just for the optics, or like that's it. And the reason why is because it went from let's say 1,000 people to 10 people locking arms and all right, we're going to jail. Everybody else just went home because they got scared. Now fast forward, I'm in a different scenario. I don't agree with that movement anymore. But in the current situation I'm at, it's even here, I'm seeing the same thing, right? Where people are all gun ho about yeah, we got to protect the rights, we got to protect this, we got to stand up for freedom, we got to do everything, right? But when the moment gets here that it's difficult, right? The difficult decisions need to be made to stand against a situation like that. That's when people start caving in. So it's like, at what point do we just, decide? Do people start deciding that's it? We can't keep caving in, because I already believe we should be there now. We can't cave in to nothing else. Like this whole mask bullshit that was going on, and sometimes some places are trying to bring upon people. Fuck you! I ain't wearing a mask, bro. Simple as that.
In compare, for what you're saying right now, I feel like this whole thing, with COVID, the whole mask and all that stuff, this whole compliance, with the vaccines, the mask. I just feel like it was just to see how far they can go.
Absolutely.
I just personally think, because it's now it's the firearms. I mean, the firearms have always been a thing. They've always been on cue ever since that. There would be a massacre. They would just be on cue to exploit the situation. But I feel like COVID, it was just to test the waters to see how far they can go with restrictions.
And I agree with that. I agree with that. You know why I agree with that? And one thing that actually brought me hope in that is just to see, in Philadelphia, they try to bring the mask mandate back on in within a few days.
Yeah. Oh, they tried.
People are like, I'm not doing this shit. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I mean. That's good, right? Because at what point they keep pushing boundaries, and the same thing in the gun community. They want to push boundaries. Take one little thing here,
and simple, just to say no.
Just another piece. Let me take away bump stocks. Let me take away this. Let me take away that. Let's add this in there, little by little, right? Just to push you and push you and push you and push you. It has to get to a point where it's just people just all around, not just a few people, not a small group of people, just people in general need to just say, you know what? Y'all need to fucking remember that this is for the people. Right, this is we the people, not we the government, right? So with that being said, we make the decisions here. You don't. You're here to represent us and enforce the shit that we have voted in or whatever, right? And many other stuff. So again, it just goes down to my question: at what point?
Well, I mean, again, and this may be a controversial, opinion that I have.
Bro,
on this.
If you don't get controversial,
that's fine.
If you don't get controversial in here, bro, you're just not made for this. So get on, let's go.
I'll put it like this, unfortunately, in the gun community, we're made up of a lot of people who are men amongst their own, and women obviously too. We are in charge of ourselves. That's not very conducive to actually leading a movement. The left is great at doing that because we're a collective, and man, we're going to get all together and we're going to fight these people, and we're going to kick their ass. And oh man, we all got to band together, and this is all going to work out. Tell somebody on a farm somewhere in Arkansas, hey, we're going to meet up Tuesday at 3:00, and we're going to march to the Capitol and go, hey, I ain't got time for that. What are you talking about? I ain't going to do that. That's the problem. That's the problem.
That is so true. That is so true because let me tell you something. I'm sorry, Cap, but let me let me point something out here, because that's very true, right? Like, I was telling people, a friend of mine actually who was with the Republican Party, was like, when it comes to this whole movement here, in order to, transition PA from what's going on here, everybody has to just get together.
Mm-hmm.
We can't be in a position where we're just like, no, I really don't like that person, I'm just going to go here. Well, look, let me tell you something. I mean, you might not be a fan of a person, but if they're the only chance in flipping in the state at the moment, and we have to get behind it together, make it happen, and then after start making the other changes we need to do, right? Gradual changes. If we keep divided within ourselves, we're feeding into the shit they want us to feed into, which is going to make it more complicated for us to do anything we need to do, right? Or stand up against this bullshit. They do the opposite, it seems like. They're just very tight together,
yes.
And they're so fucking loud and in your face. It's annoying, but they do it. And, a lot of the bullshit is starting to be coming out to lie, and people are not buying it no more. But for a while, man, I mean, they were really pushing a lot of shit and getting what they wanted.
It's tactics. It's a dogpile tactic. Basically, when having a long form discussion like this, again, is not very typical of how people even communicate. Like, well, most people have an attention span that's no longer than 160 characters. So, I mean,
Really? I think mine's is like 10.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm saying for your average person, yeah, no. But I mean, for your average person, their concentration and being able to maintain a conversation. I mean, if it can't fit into a Twitter bio, it's just too long. They don't have the capacity to carry on a conversation. So when you have, I'll use the left as an example for this abortion thing. These people will literally stay outside for days at the Capitol. They'll protest. They'll camp. I mean, look at Wall Street. The Occupy movement on Wall Street.
I was there. I'm telling
that lasted for
well,
what, like 2 months until.
Well, the one I was in was in Miami. Actually, I was there for a few days. I slept in some random tent. I was a hippie, bro. I was a fucking I was a ghetto ass hippie.
I think there's somebody once said, if you're not a liberal in your 20s, you're heartless, and if you're not a Republican in your 30s, you're brainless. I think it's something like that. I heard somebody say something like that once.
Well, I don't disagree.
But
I remember. I remember that day. Like, yes, I'm sorry. I remember I went to this thing. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna fucking fight the man. We're gonna do all this shit, right?
Oh my god!
And I went out there. I'm sitting. It was in downtown Miami, man. I took that little train. I forget what the train was called. You know which train I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know which one. The only one we have.
Yeah, the only one we have, right? So it left us in an area where it was like a big field and there was a bunch of tents everywhere, and everyone's chanting. I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Bayfront Park.
I kid you not. All I remember is people mating in tents, fucking smoking weed. I was smoking weed, and then I'm walking around and I'm just like, shit, I'm gonna stay here tonight. And all I remember is asking some dudes like, yo, can I borrow your tent? Sure. And I just stayed in this random person's tent, bro. Like, it was just gnarly.
Oh,
I mean, it was just. Yeah,
hey, man, it's the free love generation. You had your little moment of the 70s right there. I'm just gonna sit here by the river.
You fucking ain't right, I did, bro. It didn't help that I was under, some trees there.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, they're. You look at these movements. It's they do it in such a way that the establishment media is so behind their kinds of movements, and then on the contrast, you look at the Capitol situation on January 6th. You look at that, and those people, you could say unscheduled tour of the Capitol for a few hours at most. And I mean, you're talking about, I mean, it's like the second coming. Like, oh my, we got to do all this. I mean, they still have barbed wire and guys on.
It's insane.
It's insane. Like, what is going on here?
Listen.
Look. Let me.
Listen.
I'm about to get controversial. Go first because I'm about to.
Yeah. Let me go first.
Go. Because I feel the steam coming out my ears right now.
I feel the same way. But here's the thing. What I've noticed about the DNC and just like the mainstream media in general, they're just a professional marketing firm.
Mhm.
Because if you literally go outside to regular people, it's nothing compared to like what they're saying like on TV that we all hate each other. No, we don't. If you go outside regular, no, we're good. And talking about the J6 thing, it's just, I feel like they're doing it for the history books.
Yeah.
Because right now it's like they have vigils. For the fuck what? For what? Who died? I mean, with the exception of maybe like a couple people, but they're making it into such a big thing and they're blowing it out of proportion. And like I said, I feel like it's just for the history books because there's so much thousands of hours of footage and surveillance that hasn't even been released. Why? Why don't you let the American people see it?
Well, there's no cross-examination.
I just feel there's a hidden agenda.
Oh,
exactly.
Oh, there's no cross-examination.
It's one-sided.
This is basically so that Donald Trump cannot run again. As long as they get
100%
some kind of conviction, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, the guy could have stepped on some gum and dragged it into the building. As long as they get something, then he can't run.
Bro, let me tell you a couple. Okay, let me get my controversies out of here because look, when it comes to January 6th, what pisses me the fuck off of the whole situation, and I'm constantly debating with people. Well, not as much now because I'm just over it. You'll be surprised, especially on social media. You know, everybody's a big talker on social media, right? Hiding behind like fucking anime pictures and shit, talking up the whole world. Yeah.
Little Blue 6577.
Yeah. You know, like I was called a fuck turd from the other day, and the picture of the person was
people engage with you on
big tits.
Oh my god, dude, that's awesome.
Like
that's like a badge of honor, dude.
Dude, I love it, man.
That's fantastic.
All kinds of shit. You know.
He sent me a screenshot the other day of like him about his little thumbnail, like in a sea of just a whole bunch of crazy. He's like, I'm about to start some shit. He sent me a screenshot.
What happened was this. So Mitch McConnell, Mitch McConnell, a C-SPAN shared a Mitch McConnell video. So I was the second person to comment on the entire thread, which is awesome because everybody sees your shit. Now, who the fuck keeps electing this fossil into power?
Yeah,
I said that.
Did you get any comments?
Holy shit. Dude, it happens to me. Like this other time, actually, this is kind of irrelevant. I'm going to circle back to what I'm saying. So, you guys ever watch SpongeBob?
Oh, yeah, I loved it.
So,
when I was a kid,
SpongeBob, they had the news reporters, like a fish that talks and shares the news.
Yeah.
Okay. So, there's this page on TikTok that shares like current news using that format. It's a fish with the suit. Today's news, breaking news with the fish just talking. It's hilarious, right? So I said, this is epic. Because I thought it was awesome. Because SpongeBob reporting news like the fish and whatnot. Not realizing that the video said, this is epic, was Ukraine shooting down a Russian helicopter. So people took that the wrong way, thinking I said it was epic that a Russian helicopter was shot down. Bro, I think the comment was like over 3,000 or 4,000 or 2,000, some shit like that, likes. And a shit ton of comments. People calling me all kinds of shit. People fighting each other. Saying, I'm a great fucking instigator here. But besides the point.
Man,
yo, it was crazy, bro.
That's a skill within itself because I thought I had thoughts and opinions. People like they go, that guy's over in the corner going nuts. Like this, leave him alone. Nobody talks to him anyway.
Nah, bro. Okay, you know what?
Crap.
The only reason why people debate me is because when I debate them, one thing I don't share memes. Like I think I just don't think there's a purpose for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't share memes.
Yeah.
When I'm having a debate with somebody, I'm having to share that conversation. And if I don't know something, I admit it. I don't know. But if I do know, I'm going to bring it up. And 9 times out of 10, what happens is that when you bring up things that people don't know, they get pissed off because they don't know how to respond to it. So instead of owning up to it and say, I don't know the answer to that, or you know what, I don't know if that's true, they just go, you're a liar. Or they go, you're fucking racist. Or you're this, you're Nazi. I've been called Nazi like plenty of times. It's crazy. Like you'll be surprised at the amount of times. I was telling a pastor a long time ago about this. It's like, and I showed them a picture. It's like, look, they called me a Nazi. It's like, have they not seen you? I was like, I guess not, because my picture's there. Whatever. So they say all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Now, back to the whole January 16th. What pisses me off about January 16th? First of all, I think everybody on that side tends to forget or just wants to purposely ignore the beautiful summer of fucking love that we had. Remember, you guys remember that? The summer of love where people were dancing,
Chaz, baby.
having barbecue.
Chaz.
They were having barbecues, man. The barbecues were the most intense barbecues in the world. The only thing is, they weren't fucking grilling food. They were grilling people's jobs, businesses, and cars, and a whole tons of shit like that, right? And they're looking at this scenario like, oh, but it wasn't an insurrection. It was people angry because of racism and all this other shit. Bullshit, because you guys did take over state buildings.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys did start. What is it? The anonymous zone, whatever the hell you want to call it, up in the west. Up in the west coast.
I was supposed to do a job in Seattle, and I wanted to get my picture taken at the Chaz. I missed it by a week. I was like, yes, I'm going to the Chaz, baby.
Bro.
Hell yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you guys did that. You guys went and started threatening all kinds of people. Multiple people were killed. Billions of dollars of damage. People lost their jobs, lost their businesses, lost their vehicles, lost their livelihoods. So you guys want to base a month worth of that, even longer, to be honest, because there's things that still happen afterwards, opposed to one fucking day where, you know, me, honestly, I don't think that should have happened. I think people should have been much smarter to realize that this is going to be turned into a whole shit show, which it has turned into, right? But even with that, I'm like, the degree of stuff that happened there is nowhere near what happened there, okay? And the way they're bringing up the whole January 16th, they've said it's worse than 9/11.
Oh,
which is insulting.
They've said the people have made it seem like it's a fucking war, like if a bomb went off, blew up every single building around the neighborhood, right? They've said, you know, we were there and we were just ready to hang people. There was a picture, and in situations like this, I'm like, you see, you guys don't make it any easier, right? But I don't think the purpose was to hang anybody. Somebody did bring like some fixture where it had like a rope and went out, whatever. Nobody was going to hang anybody off of that shit. You know what I'm saying? That was just for show. But they're going to still utilize that for their optics, for their, you know, for their rhetorics and whatnot. So now I'm seeing all this. And I'm like, look, this is a clear indication right here. If nothing else has indicated to you that there's something wrong in this country. Like, you know what? I don't care what anybody says. I genuinely believe this elections in 2020 were fucking stolen. Nobody can tell me otherwise. All right. Call me crazy. Call me controversial. I don't give a shit. I genuinely believe that, right? So with that situation there, you know, and now January 6th, how they're trying to really to crucify all these people, political prisoners, they are involved in this situation. American political prisoners. Nobody's talking about the situation, right? Comparing it to, 9/11 and saying I was scared for my life because there were 40 yards or 40 feet away from me. Mind you, the person was probably fucking on the other side of multiple walls at that distance. Like, what is somebody going to do? You know what I'm saying? And then getting our Coast Guards to come in, having the Coast Guards sleep in a fucking basement or in a parking garage, you know, putting a fence up to protect themselves against the American people.
Who they label as domestic terrorists.
Yeah, and then that's not even including, like, I watched every single minute of the impeachment that happened with Donald Trump, the last one that happened before January 6th. The whole time there, this is what I'm thinking, and same thing with January 6th. When these cases are over and there's no guilt found in these people who are there persecuting, every single one who spent our tax dollar money in this scenario here needs to be put in fucking jail for treason. And that's simple as that.
It's a complicated thing because I mean people have different opinions on different things and you can get lost in the minutia of I mean we're living through a schizophrenic zeitgeist inside of America in the cultural sphere, but I mean these January 6th was I without going too deep into the weeds, I believe it was a co-opted event. I mean, you literally had Capitol Police going, I don't agree with it, but it's your right to do it. And they opened the gates and people went in, and that does not fall on those people.
Did you?
And they were warned that there may be stuff happening, but then later I think Nancy Pelosi was the one that didn't have extra security or something. It's like as if they knew about it.
That's what I'm getting at, like shit like that. And then on top of that, you know, I haven't got into deep. I think actually, Catherine, you probably went further into that. How there are claims, or I think it was actually proven that even FBI agents were involved in the whole scenario.
Oh. Yeah,
you know, and it's like, yeah. So now you got that there too.
The three-letter agencies.
I'm like, exactly. I'm sitting there. I'm like, this is why I said what I just said. Any of these people who have any involvement that instigate situations like this and trying to persecute people because they to push their agendas or whatever the fuck, I don't care which party you're in, anything that's treasonous to the to the United States of America, anything that turns its back on the Constitution of the United States of America, there needs to be some serious consequences for that. Because if there isn't, then you're going to continue. Look, let me tell you right now, unless Pennsylvania is going through something really important, right? Pennsylvania has to win the election that's going on, among some other states as well. Right now, a lot of the weight is laying on Pennsylvania, right? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm supporting Doug Mastriano because he's the strongest candidate there. I'm getting involved with the campaign, all this other stuff, and I'm just far behind. Dr. Oz, I don't like the guy. I really don't.
No,
but you know what? Be honest.
Exactly.
Yeah. But let me be honest, man. From his competitor right now, I'll take him over him, and then we could deal with that later, right? So I'm getting behind him. Yeah, okay, cool. Any person who turns their back on that, they just need to be fucking removed and not be able to. That somebody actually said something today. Let me gather my thoughts here. This person in particular, I wish I took a screenshot, said that any person who tries to push anything unconstitutional and it gets deemed as unconstitutional after it goes through court and all that, should be eliminated right there from being able to run for any public office ever again.
Well, I think it's a game. Well,
you get what I'm saying,
100%.
Right?
And in that aspect. Now, if you're a constitutional lawyer and you press the issue, I think there's good ways that can happen. Because I mean, you look at unfortunately with the Patriot Act, you are bending and pushing the what is exactly what you're protected under with the Fourth Amendment. I mean, when the document was written back in 1776, we didn't have email. Is email protected? Is that part of your privacy? I mean, what we really need to do is I mean, this is a whole other thing, but I mean, establish some kind of digital bill of rights. But which is I'm another big thing I'm about. But I mean,
I never thought I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, when you really look into what is your privacy on, and I don't want to get off too much onto a thing because I mean, I'm sure you still want to talk about January 6th, but real quick, your data on the internet is so susceptible to being bought. Facebook knows more about you than you probably know about you. I mean, there was an article I read a long time ago. This is going back years. There was a girl, I think it maybe Alabama, Arkansas, it was something with an A. It's coming to mind. She was dating her boyfriend, and her dad started getting ads from Target for cribs and all kinds of other like baby accessories and stuff, and was like, why am I getting ads for all this nonsense? And here it comes out is that she was Target. Target knew through their algorithms and her shopping habits that she was pregnant before she even knew that she was pregnant, which is fucking totally insane. That's
you know what that probably is. So I'm like I have a business and it's marketing, right? So that's like that happens. She probably went on a website and like looked at some baby stuff and then started getting everything baby. Like the other day, yesterday actually, it was a perfect example. I was looking at some chest rigs. I looked at one picture and when I went to Facebook, my feed is already there. And I already know because that's all part of their ads, the way they have all the ads set up and all that stuff. So Target use like, okay, this is a potential person who's interested in this aspect or curious here. They've been here. They just bombed them and shit. Like my Facebook, bro. Sometimes before I got into marketing, I was like, this is weird, man. Yeah. It's like they're following me. Like what?
Well, you look at Britain. Britain has digital hate speech laws, and then you have Canada with the same thing. I mean, that's what Jordan Peterson was dealing with for years. With I think that's HB 270. I forget what the law is in Canada, but I mean, if you go on the internet as a European citizen and you say something that can be deemed as hate speech, the police are going to show up at your house. It's a guarantee. It's insane. Mm-hmm. It's totally insane. And that your First Amendment right basically stops the moment that you, not here in America, but in the UK, the moment that you leave the home, your First Amendment stops. You're basically
I didn't know that about the UK.
Yeah, you're basically a political prisoner within your own home. in the UK as far as
Yeah.
the digital hate speech laws. And I mean, here we don't have that yet because again, but that's I'm sure something that's coming down the pipes very soon because I mean you have I mean they pushed it years
Come
ago.
on
So they
now.
had the cyberbullying and all this stuff. I mean, and it's like people get caught up in these words. You look at again 2004 with the Patriot Act. Oh man, aren't you a patriot? You want to get on the Patriot Act, and literally the government is using sophisticated algorithms and software that are listening to you through your phone. I mean, you could just they just turn on your microphone. You don't even know they're listening to you. They're taking pictures with you with
It's
your cell
crazy.
phone, your front facing
It's
camera. You don't even know, and only after they get caught they go, oh, we didn't know we were doing that.
okay.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
Hope.
oh dude, come on, like the prism software and all that bullshit. That's when you look into that, that is the most insane thing. It was basically a dragnet of completely unconstitutional things that were happening, and when they got caught, shit. You know what I mean? It's just like, holy crap! Like, what else was going on? We can't talk about it. It's the same thing with January 6th, which I think she was talking about too. Is that lady that from the FBI or CIA, maybe I forget which one. I think it was the FBI, came out and I don't remember the senator that asked her, but it was like, how many did any federal agents take part in the January 6th riots? And she was like, well, I can't say. Like, well, how, if so, how many? I don't know, but we can't talk about it. Well, if there was none, then just say none.
You would just say
Yeah.
no.
So I mean, obviously something happened.
You know what? That reminds me, like when Fauci was recently asked. Well, I gotta tell you, man, I really love the exchange between Rand Paul and Fauci.
Oh yeah, those are
like,
those are good. Yeah,
it is
yeah.
I
so
love
fucking
those.
good.
Yeah.
Yo, he presses
Yeah.
him, man. He
I
presses
wonder,
him.
like, what coffee does Rand Paul just drink in the morning and be like, "Yep, I'm gonna interrogate this
Whatever
motherfucker
the fuck
today."
he's having. I
Oh
want
yeah,
it.
he's
Yeah,
on fire. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but he was talking to about like them receiving money,
Mhm.
right? And they were just like just like kind of like beating around the bush with trying to answer that. Like
Yeah, well,
right
I
off the
can't
back they were just full of
disclose that or
bullshit.
something. I think he
Yeah,
was
like
saying.
some bullshit like that, and that's what pisses me off, man. It's like, dude,
Man, that's a huge rabbit hole. I think they should get Peter Daszak out there. I mean, Dr. Fauci is his own worst enemy when it comes to that. But the Human Rights or Human Health, I think Human Health Coalition, I think that's what it was called, or Human Rights or something, I forget. They are the primary funders that Dr. Fauci gave money to fund that Wuhan lab. I mean, we're not even 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon when we're talking about like actually funding that lab in China. I mean, that was Dr. Fauci's research, and this guy, this Peter Daszak guy that runs this alliance of different uh, biolabs. He's out and about, man. He's on his plane flying off, or he's on a yacht somewhere, and he's chilling. And Dr. Fauci's out there. He is so protected that there's nothing that can happen to him. So yeah, Rand Paul getting out there and busting on him is great for us, but these people will never be held accountable. It's the same thing with Jeffrey
so
Epstein and everything else. I mean, these people they just go
dude,
away. These lists, these flight
it's
logs. What happened to them? They just poof, gone.
that's exactly what I was just going to ask right now. It's like it's interesting how these things are just poofing
Yeah.
away. Right now, we have to wrap up soon. So I want to start winding down things here with something really important, right? Because there's so much we covered here, and Doug, I will hope that we come back
Oh,
on
I'd
the
love
show
to.
again.
I would
so
like
we
to
got
talk
for
about Ukraine. That's my
Oh yes,
hot new thing right now, man. I would love.
and
to
we
talk
need to
about
we need
that.
to. As a matter of fact, I mean, we'll see what we do. Maybe we'll say if you want to hop on next week again, we could hop on.
Great.
It'd be cool if we could do if we could do some type of panel, like get you, us two on here, and see who else we could bring on here.
I would love to talk
and just
to
like
somebody
have a big
that
discussion. That'd be cool.
I mean, I'll state my position at this point. This thing in Ukraine goes all the way back to 2013. I mean, this has been a cataclysm
Yes.
that has been coming.
A coup.
Yeah, well,
It's a fucking coup.
you have Poroshenko, who was the original president. Well, not the original president, but the president before Zelensky, who was
Yep.
very pro-Russian. And in 2000, I believe the Euromaidan riots were in 2014, I believe. And right after that had happened, where basically the Ukraine wanted, people voted on a referendum that they wanted to join the EU. And long story short, after these Euromaidan riots happened, the Donbass region, which has been largely considered Russian, this is a cultural issue over there. They identify as Russian. It's very similar to this Kaliningrad situation. It was a German colony. Well, it was part of Germany, really, and then it became a Russian enclave, since. But this entire situation in Ukraine has evolved from basically a border crisis. It was a border situation, no different than what we have with Mexico, that has completely spiraled out of control into a global conflict. And now you have India, Brazil, China, Russia, eh, joining factions together in an economic power to fight the EU, which is the most financially bankrupt system in the UK right now. I mean, there is more loss. Poland takes more money in than I believe Germany gives to the EU. How the hell is uh, two superpowers like China and Russia, who have major mineral and technological powerhouses in their industries, how the hell is that supposed to? How is the EU supposed to compete against that? This whole situation, what we've done is made the situation worse. I mean, that's
So at
my
least,
opinion. I mean, obviously, these people on the western side of Ukraine have a right to their sovereignty, but it, we have we've stepped in a pile of shit that unfortunately now we're locked at the hip at. There's no way out.
and you know what? I would like to discuss those even further because there's another situation that I want to bring on in this, and we could definitely do this on another episode, the next episode
Sure.
together. The whole Taiwan situation.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things even on my even as my job, we were having conversations already with buying material because there's things coming up already that's a major concern
Yes.
over there. So you know what, guys? What we're gonna do is the next episode. Well, not the next episode, but probably the next week or the week after. Captain, let's get the schedule now. Doug, we want you to we'll have
next
you
week,
back
what
on.
you talking about? I'm ready to go off on Ukraine.
All right, then let's
I'm
go.
itching
Let's go
for
next.
it.
Oh,
next
hell
week.
yeah.
I'm like,
All right.
that's when you started talking about it. I was like, yes.
She's like, I see her throw her hands. I'm like, this could be a. I'm telling you,
Look forward to it.
she did a lot. Look, let me tell you, there's so much conversations that happened around this when we first started. Actually, when we first started the podcast,
We did a Russian-Ukraine episode.
Oh,
yeah,
like
so-
debunking
yeah, so-
myths and all that stuff of like the ghost of Kiev,
Yeah.
which was
Yes,
So now-
and all that other
so
stuff.
now
Propaganda,
with-
people
with
bought
that
into
being
that.
done-
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So now we're definitely gonna have this. So if you guys want to hear that, it's gonna be out next week. But I want to
Great.
wrap up, right? Because I gotta step away anyway. So before I do, let's take 5 minutes. We're gonna do 5 more minutes, right? Based on our whole conversation that we just had in the different issues with the 2A, January 6th, everything, right? The corruption that's going on. What do you guys feel would be a step towards getting our country back on track? I just want to hear what you guys feel.
Ladies first. That way the pressure's not on me. Have at it.
No pressure. I mean, I would say it's just getting to a place like where we can all listen to each other again. I feel like people's mouths stay open and their minds stay closed. I think if we were to understand like, hey, we have our differences, but let's put them aside. And let's work together to preserve the country that we know and love. I think also in terms of like firearms, I think there's also a lack of education. A lot of marketing coming from Hollywood and just people that are just uneducated in general. There needs to be more, I would say, there needs to be just like more teamwork, just like with America in general, and not just like only fight like when the fight comes to me. Like if it's at your neighbor's door, you need to go and help them, so then later we're not in the situation that we're in now. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
What about you, Doug?
I agree with a lot of that. And one of the things that I think that I see now is this. Podcasts like this. You have the marketing powerhouse of like the Daily Wire and things like that happening. The populist, let's use that word, the populist message has been really largely gone unheard. The libertarian message, these types of messages have largely gone unheard. You have these media empires, CNN, I mean, even Fox News to a certain degree, they don't pay attention to the average person. They have their agenda, their spin, their propaganda, whatever you want to call it, and then they put it out there. Things like this where people have a chance to form their own opinion. I mean, I remember listening to basically podcasts before they were podcasts, way back in probably
Mm-hmm.
2012, people talking about one person I like in particular is Sargon of Akkad or Carl Benjamin. I listened to his entire thing on the immigration crisis, back in 2012 on the Afghan refugees coming to the UK. And I mean, you only after that time can you really like sit down and form your own opinion, because I mean the way that the news media describes these topics, I mean look at the way that they're describing the gun issue now. Everybody can get a gun in New York City, boom. I mean it's just like, whoa, that's not exactly what's happening here. But they're condensed down into these 2-second sound bites that, I mean, if you cannot articulate your opinion that quick, boom, people are gone. So, I mean, things like this, being able to reach out and talk to people and having these conversations are probably, outside of just talking to your fellow person, one of the best things that can be done.
Agree. Now, what I think we should do, we should all get some bidets, put them in our toilet, and just, get that little tinkle. I'm telling you, man, it changes the mood, bro.
I only know
Changes the
one
mood.
person with a bidet, and it was this other dude I used to work with, and he bought this house that had one, and he goes, "You want to use that?" I said, "Hell no, dude. What the hell?" So I'm like, "Why do you have a urinal right next to the toilet? Like, what the hell is that?"
Look,
He's
let
like,
me.
"Oh, it's a bidet." Like, what? What the hell is that?
Let me tell you something. When I lived in Ecuador, and we'll wrap up with this.
That's like
when I lived
first
in
world
Ecuador,
problems.
is the toilet? No. This is Ecuador. Definitely wasn't a first world country. You had the toilet, take your crap there, and then you had the bidet next. I didn't know what it was. Like a big sink looking thing, shoots water up. And I'm like, I guess. And I was a kid. I was like, I think you wash your hands here. Because you had to know better. But wait, now as an adult, when we were living in Staten Island, the toilet had a damn. So I ain't trying that shit. I tried it. I'm an advocate.
Change your life.
Everybody needs a bidet. It'll make you a better person.
Bro, I've only seen that like in old people houses, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Right before
like the bidets that
right before you leave, that was one of my biggest things with coronavirus was, hey man, I am not going to be locked in my house wiping my ass with sandpaper. I want the plush. I want the triple ply. You know what I mean? Like I went out. I was ready to go into the lines and do battle, because I'm not going out there with 80 grit and just like wipe it. Like, no, man. So I mean, maybe it would have been close to getting a bidet, but I'm a Charmin man to the end. It's just the way it's going to be.
I'm a bidet guy, but I'm not gonna make this podcast weird any more weird than this. Right? So I'll just say
no dingleberries here.
Yeah.
All right, guys. If you guys enjoyed the show, well, first off, thanks, Doug. We appreciate you, man.
Thank you
we
so much.
Look forward to having you all on here again. We're gonna have more conversations, so we'll plan it for next week. Guys, follow, share. Please share. It's important. We're small. We're just starting out, and we want to make sure if we're adding value to you, and you think we could bring value to others, just pass it on. You never know what could come out of it, for that particular person. So share the show.